All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I see a few familiar names on this webinar. For those of you that I haven't had a chance to meet yet, I'm Mike McQueen, the Chief Information Officer for Virtual IT and all of its clients. Today, we're continuing our series on underutilized Microsoft applications. Now, I know it seems ridiculous to say that Teams is underutilized, especially after how COVID changed how we all do business. But in this case, I'm not talking about how people aren't using it as much as they should. It's more that they aren't using it as extensively as they could be. There's a lot of features out there that I think people just don't quite realize yet. And so that's what we're here for. Most of us are familiar with using Teams to chat, make video calls. I know some of you are actually using Teams as your business phone system. Teams has evolved over the last couple of years to take on more of a collaboration than a communication mentality, meaning that people are they're not just talking about doing work, they're actually doing the work together from anywhere. We're here to help you leverage some of that functionality just so that you can help improve your team's productivity. I'm going to introduce John Hood with Knowledge Wave. He and the Knowledge Wave team are an amazing resource when it comes to Microsoft trainings, and we've partnered with them to put on this series of webinars. I know from firsthand experience that John is not annoyed by stupid questions, so please don't hesitate to put any questions in the chat as they come to you. And I know he'll do what he can to get to all of them. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to John to get this thing started.
Great. Thanks, Mike. I'm excited to talk about Microsoft Teams today. We're focusing on exactly what Mike was saying, beyond chat and meetings. A lot of times that's what people are using it for. Teams is something that's a lot more than that. And Mike also nailed it with the collaboration part. That's something I'm focusing on today, which is how to make the most of Teams. This is a tool you have that you pay for, and some of you probably are paying for premium subscriptions or and Copilot and getting super fancy with it. The capabilities are extensible, like way more than I expected. It's very cool stuff. This is also something that I use every day. So it's since the beginning. So I think 11 years at Knowledge Wave, used the Microsoft 365 ecosystem the whole time and talk about it every day. So you'll get the idea. I'm pretty excited about it. So if you have questions, please interact with us. This is live. So we have a number of different people here who can help out, but I read the questions. In fact, why don't you just test it out, say hi, practice. Tell me where you're from, what state or something. That's fun. I'm in northern Vermont. It's a beautiful spring day here. But again, feel comfortable doing that. We want to make sure you feel heard. We've got a few things we want to talk about today as far as core topics. We'll do a review of the Teams interface because Teams has really changed quite a bit over the years. It really did start as a chat app, really, and people are chatting, and then it had all these other capabilities added on because that's how it was built. It's kind of like a window pane, I think of panel. It lays on top of SharePoint and OneDrive. So it's all building into this collaborative space. So we still have chats, certainly have meetings. That's where we hold most of our meetings now. But the left bar, that has things like activity feed, and there are a number of other apps that are awesome. So we'll explore some of the cool new ones, some things maybe you know about. Hopefully you pick up some tips and tricks, but I bet you'll learn some stuff today you didn't know existed in Teams. So we'll explore Teams channels and tabs. I think that's an underutilized part of Teams, is making the most of the channels, because that's really where the work gets done in context to whatever that team might be, like a channel for just design stuff within marketing, something like that. But the collaborative part, we have file management. That's a huge part of Teams now, especially with big updates that have been happening lately within Teams, but within OneDrive. We have access to all of our documents that we have ownership of or membership to. All the collaborative things of SharePoint and Teams cross over because we lean on SharePoint for Teams. So we'll talk about uploading, editing, sharing files within those Teams channels. And there's some new types of channels that we can use. So if you're a person who has to create channels, there's some really cool new options. So we'll talk about interacting with them, and then some of the owner type stuff if you're an owner of a team. Integration of the apps, Planner and To Do. Again, a lot of updates, partly due to the pandemic. Certainly that changed the way we work. They're listening to the things we're saying, as far as asks and with user voice or things like it. And then it's just expanded. So we have planner and to-do, personal, all the way up through large group management of tasks. And having this all in one place with the new planner and to-do experience in Teams, it's like melding everything together. It's pretty slick. So we have loop components. That's something new, which I've been using more and more. And I like it. That's a file type, we'll get more into it, that you can carry across Microsoft 365. It's like a digital canvas you can carry around. And then some of the new features, they're going to include collaborating more effectively. The settings area is packed full of stuff that many of us don't realize are there until you start poking around in there. So I encourage you to check it out. Since we're not meeting in Teams right now, partly we do that so I can show you Teams instead of being in Teams a few times. But if you have it in another window or something, I encourage you to open it up. Take a look and see, maybe when we explore some of the settings, what might be helpful for you. So tips, tricks, all sorts of stuff. Now, we are going to do a lot of demo, but I want to do a brief introduction, some slides, because when I say Microsoft Loop, or you hear Loop components or Loop workspaces, Loop pages, that can be confusing. So it is new. Microsoft Loop is the name of the app, and super powerful. I mentioned like a flexible digital canvas. Take it anywhere, and it's in sync. It's live, collaborative. You can see people typing and clicking inside of it. It's pretty fancy. So I use them in Teams chat quite a bit, because then I can expand it, go out to a browser, share it just like any other file. But you'll see a file type called .fluid or .loop. And that's what they are. Sometimes they're generated from meetings, so you might see one and wonder, where did that come from? A lot of times people are starting them in meetings for agenda notes. And if you see this icon, that logo icon, that's what it is. You'll see it in chats. We now have them in channels, which I think is a huge update that I'm psyched about, because I was using them personally, sharing them, but only in chats. So each one is automatically saved to your OneDrive, which makes it easy. And you can edit inside the chat if you want to. Literally anywhere you see that, it works. So here's just again, I'm going to demo it, but this is way more dynamic to see this GIF, which shows people working in real time. They're just, it's very easy to do. A lot of apps are advertised. You'll see there are a lot of competitors for this type of working, but it's quick, easy, and it's always correct. You can be in Teams in the Loop app itself. You can do so in Outlook. Even if you paste one into Word Online, you can edit in real time with this little component inside of that. I love it. That's brand new. The other new experience, To-Do and Planner. Sometimes it's confusing. Which one do I use? This To-Do app is really showing up a lot more in Outlook and Teams. And in fact, in Teams, there's a new experience where they're combined. It's like tasks by Planner and To-Do, and then now it just reads Planner, but it's like a more colorful icon. Anyway, To-Do, you'll see that in Teams. I encourage you to start using the To-Do app inside the Teams environment if you're in there a lot anyway. Like, I spend a lot of time in Teams just because I do integrate all of these apps, and it's nice. It's like a work OS almost. But you can manage your individual tasks across To-Do, Outlook, and Planner as well, not just Teams. Daily to-do list for yourself. You can also share certain lists with people, so you can have a shared list, and it doesn't necessarily have to be related or attached to a team or something like that, a personal shared one. So it's a great way to manage stuff. You can see charts, and you can collaborate across Microsoft 365 groups, which are basically teams. So you can go either way, which I like. So when do you use one versus the other? And again, in the Teams environment, you'll see it on the left called Planner or Tasks by Planner and To-Do. I'll show you in just a moment. But again, teamwork versus personal stuff, OneDrive versus SharePoint type of thing. Let's give this a try. I'm curious. We're talking about more than just chats and meetings. How often do you use Teams for something else besides that? So certainly feel free to maybe pick up your device and try this QR code. If you don't have that or you don't want to do that, you can type in that link on the bottom. I shortened it as much as it would let me. What I did in this was use Microsoft Forms, which is actually another app that I encourage you to adopt or use more in the Teams environment, because it can be during meetings, it can be on the fly, it can be during or sent by link. Now, hopefully you've had a chance to grab that. I'm just going to pull up some of our results here. This is using the Forms app in Microsoft 365. It's really cool. I just spun up the question here in the question area, and then here are the responses. This is cool. Thank you for responding. You can do this multiple times for fun if you want to just try it out. But here it is, responses. And this is something we can integrate into Teams. I'll show you how. We can look at the results in Excel even. But we can see most people are using it for something besides chat or meetings every day. Some people never do. Maybe they're just using it for that. Nobody has other, because I just thought maybe nobody here uses Teams. Maybe you use Google or something. But this is good to know. It varies. So really, I think this should be blue eventually everywhere. I think using every day, it's actually really easy to do with some of the things I'm going to show you today, at least to check in. All right, so I also encourage you to use this Forms app. It's awesome. I'm going to copy that link, and I'm going to show you one thing that we can do in Teams right away. And you can continue to try that. We can even revisit it when I add it. Here in the Teams environment, I'm going to add it as a tab up here on the top. Now you can search, and there are several different apps. I'm going to expand on this shortly when we get into this a little bit more, but you can usually type the name of an app and have that up on the top, and I can add an existing form or I can create a new one. So let's just say I want to add the one we're doing now, collect responses, post to the channel about it. Looks good. Now at the meeting or whatever it is, I could even paste this link right into or make a tab on a meeting with it, by the way. But now, whenever people go to design, we can just tell them, hey, there's a tab on the top. Can you just fill out that survey? This could be to vote on something. It's official. It's saved in Excel. You can work on it. But also just getting ideas and things like that. Surveys, quizzes. It's all AI driven too, if you want. Very fancy. So check that out. We kind of jumped ahead to one of the cool features of using these tabs on the top within channels, because they're not all going to have it unless you want to. You can certainly put it in the general channel or something, but you can customize these. It's really good to go beyond just having a regular chat, for example. Let's say I'm here chatting with Christy. I can put that up on the top here. I'm going to put pretty much any file, website, app, even third-party apps. So I'm going to just type in, I'll show you. If I type in forms, it does not show up within the chat. So sometimes you have to do little workarounds, which is using links. Now, everything, it does have some limitations on channels versus chats. That's why I got excited about having loop components in channels as well. That's a big deal. This is an example of a loop component. I have this one. I can open it in the browser. There's that icon. Now, to create this, all I did was click on the loop component button here. It's on the bottom. Now it's already got that one there. I can send that off, and I'll explore this a little bit more. This is just kind of a quick look at, we're already seeing these things built into our chat, built into our channels. If I go to the Teams area, I can see different channels. If I wanted to start a new post, look, there's loop components. That's brand new. And loop components, there are lots of different types of, I think, lists and task items, Q&A, everything from a basic bulleted list, but you can even do code. You can create tasks within here and vote on things. Retrospective meetings are really cool in here because what it does is puts boards like swim lanes in here, and you can add different cards. It's all customizable. Pretty amazing. And then we can take this, and I'll show you how shortly how we can carry that to other places within Microsoft 365. So I'm going to get rid of that for now. But before I get too excited about this, let's take a look at the interface and some of the basics, as I mentioned at the beginning. The activity feed, this is a really helpful area because what this does is allow us to look at read or unread, because sometimes if we use it for just chat or meetings, we may miss some of the notifications and activity if other people start using it. Like if you share a loop component and other people interact with it, you're going to see that in your activity feed. And this is a really helpful place to go because it does surface everything that you're working on recently, but there are some options. Like you can mark them all as read. If it gets a little out of control, you don't want to see all the notifications, just mark them as read. And certainly, anytime you see the gear, click on that. It's going to bring you to that new settings area, which is, I mean, there's just so much here. I'm going to go back to activity though. We'll return to the settings in a minute. But read and unread, I find that one to be helpful. But we also have filter options. This is great because it can be anything from when somebody mentioned you. These are quick, easy ways to save searching around for everything. Any reactions, if you use a voicemail and voice, like Teams phone, or even if someone left a voicemail just with a voice call that wasn't like telephone. Replies and apps. So these filters are awesome. Just start typing and it's gonna like chat to Champlain. You type and it filters like in real time. So again, check out that activity feed. The chat area, this pretty much the same except for the expanded top filter options and search. To create a new chat, if you click here, it's gonna automatically do it in a full window here. And then you can add people's names. Like I'll add Miriam, I'll add Adele, and Alex. So there's my conversation. This is my group. Now I've got one that's already created here. So we have the people. I'd say create a group chat. Everything doesn't always have to be on the channel. Because remember, on the channel, everybody on the team can see everything. If you want to have a smaller group chat, I have a group chat for my core team at work. There's a new feature in here. You can actually create or upload a profile pic. And I kind of like that feature. It sounds funny, but it used to be traditionally just small pictures. And if there's several people in there, sometimes it's hard to distinguish between them. I'd spend a few seconds. I know that's not long, but it does disrupt your flow when you can't find something. So each of the chats you have, we're just kind of exploring the chat area. I recommend pinning to the top. I know this is more than chat and meetings, but even if you start this in a chat and you want to take it to the channel instead, I'm going to just choose copy component. I can do that now. I think this is great. So I can start a new post. I'm just going to say, check out this new feature. Maybe I want to make it stand out a little bit more. What you can do is click on the settings here. And I'm going to say, I'm going to send this to multiple channels, actually. I'm going to send that to design, but also the retail team for that group. They should check this out too. So I can paste that loop component in and check it out. It's got this meeting agenda with some notes. Now it's reminding me, well, if you share it with people over there, they don't have access to it yet. So that's where it makes it easy. We don't have to be like pros at understanding SharePoint permissions and stuff. You can give access to those people, and it does so automatically. And if you change your mind, you can click here and change it, like maybe everyone at work. If you want to resend the link, that if somebody forgets the link, this is on files too, just go to the manage area and just people with existing. It's a reshare link. Those are handy. It happens all the time. But people in the workplace, this is a practice environment, only people on this team with existing, and then you can say they can edit or view. So this is with the loop component. It's a file type. And to answer somebody's question, can people outside your organization access whatever's posted? People outside the organization cannot. For loop components, and even a lot of times for SharePoint files, to create an anyone link. I know that's a little bit different than what you're asking. Specifically, loop components, they're only inside right now. Now, I wish that was outside. That's one ask I would have if they were to say, hey, John Hood, what do you want? Loop components for everyone. But I have a feeling it's because of security stuff. This reaches out to all things that are also included in that loop component. So if you put sensitive data in there, people copy paste it. It can be security. Now, that might change. I don't know. It's a really good question. I'm kind of glad you asked. I wasn't going to mention it because it might change. But as of now, internal only for loop components. They're still awesome. I recommend giving them a try. So there it is. Now, there's some other features here. We're in Teams, and we're saying, hey, this is a lot more than just meeting or chat. If I click on that and I open it in the browser, I can see actually that Alex is in there right now. Alex has this page open. This is like the full loop.microsoft.com is what it would be, but loop.cloud.microsoft, it redirected. But that's cool to see that Alex is right there. If you don't know who Alex is, you can find out more information about them by contact card and stuff. But here we're going to pretend we're Alex as well. So look, we're pretending in the green browser, there's Alex's picture. Welcome and introductions. And if he highlights that, look, I can see on my side, there it is. I love it. So this is in the browser. It could also be here in the Teams environment. Look, I'm in a Teams channel. So I'm consuming this information, this agenda and notes as a project team person, as me, as John, on the design channel. But guess what? If I go to the chat and I go here with this group chat with Christy and Irvin and everyone, look, there's Alex is in there. Same thing. I love it. It can be an Outlook too. You're going to see that inside of message. So yeah, internal only, really helpful though. For external people, a lot of times it's for security reasons. So there's that consideration. Your organization can change things and customize it as well. So that's me kind of pulling in chat a little bit, but you can do larger group shares within that channel from something you started in a chat. You can kind of cross that over. And again, you can do so in Outlook too. Anytime you create a new message, you could just paste that loop component in there. You'll see the logo in lots of places throughout. All right, I'm just going to close that up. So let's check out some of the other things about the question. You're welcome. Yeah, the loop components thing, certainly check it out. It's a big part of Teams. The other, just kind of going over some of the basics, but may have been updated, is the calendar. Here, we can join with an ID, and Meet Now has been there since the beginning, but we have different meeting types. Instead of just a meeting, you can actually create things like virtual appointments, not necessarily joining the meeting now, but I want to encourage you to use things like templates because then they're easier to share and people are going to maybe sign up for your event a little more if you create that. I'm going to go back to the left bar and go to OneDrive. Now this may be called files on your version. Versions vary, especially now. Things are changing pretty fast with the subscriptions, which I like. The look and feel is consistent everywhere. So if you were using Outlook or you really like using the Microsoft 365 stuff on the web, now if you go to this OneDrive tile, you're going to get the OneDrive home experience here inside of Teams. So if you love OneDrive, let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go here to Microsoft 365, and I'm just going to go to OneDrive. This is now called OneDrive Home. This is the OneDrive on the web. If you were to go out to Microsoft365.com, click on the app launcher and go to OneDrive. We've got all of these features. There's some new ones like people, meetings, and media. I'll show you what these look like when we're in Teams. And then quick access. So even though you're in OneDrive, you have access to all of your SharePoint files. And since Teams, the files for a team are stored in SharePoint, then that means we have access to all of our files that we're using in the Teams environment. If I click on it, I'm in SharePoint. It's kind of funny. I'm like in the browser, in the OneDrive app, but inside of that, I'm in SharePoint. But you don't realize it unless we point it out, and then it's so much. But look, these are the channels for that Mark 8 project team. This is my OneDrive on the web. So if we go back to Teams, which is behind this window, look, people, meetings, media, quick access to my SharePoint stuff, and there's the Mark 8 project team files. So I don't really have to go to the browser. Look, that's the same view. I can stay in Teams. So a lot of your collaboration and your file management, the way you interact with or consume files, that can be done from inside of this Teams window. It's like, again, it's like a window pane. You can just look at everything, lays on top. So even though it's called OneDrive, you're going to have access to SharePoint stuff. Notice these: general, design, digital assets, web, go to market plan. If I go to that Mark 8 project team, look, general, design, digital assets, go to market plan. These are all organized in the same way the channels are. So whenever you're in a channel, if you hit files, this files area, you don't have to scroll and search for files in the conversation. They're all right here. Even the loop components, which is cool. And then you can work with those files design only. Well, these are subfolders. So the same way the teams build, like let's say this is a folder, this project team, and we'll say these are subfolders, which are channels. It's exactly how it's made in the file structure. So I know nothing's linear anymore with Microsoft stuff. It's all like spread out. So we don't feel confused about it, and I don't confuse myself, pick a workflow that works for you. Like, I like working in Teams a lot. So I have my chats in my small group, and then I share files with those people, or I use loop components. And then I can assign tasks and do tasks. Look here, chats. Each meeting has a chat, by the way. So you can go access your like meeting recap in the video and recording and stuff. That's awesome. It's all in chat. I can go add the form that I wanted to add to that meeting or files. All here. I go back to OneDrive though. One thing that's new is this browse by files area. I love it. If you want to collaborate with people that you work with all the time, go to your OneDrive tile and click on people. You're going to see you can pin and unpin people, and it's a little bit bigger. And it shows the thumbnails of files that you've been working on together and from a variety of different places, and also recordings. So if you work with Patty a lot, you can see the items shared and then expand it to just a special folder. It's really easy to use, just my Patty stuff, and then I can go back to people. And if I want to access that file, I can just click and it's going to launch it for me. Now, the way files launch within Teams, yes, somebody's asking a question, you can change that. You can change your default file open experience if you want to. I'll show you that in settings. It's a cool one. Then, similar to people, there's meetings. You can actually browse your files and recordings by meeting. So there's that project charter meeting. I have the actual project charter document attached to the meeting. So that means when I click, I can open that. Now, I had my default file open experience be the full version of Word. That's cool. So I was in Teams, and yes, you can use Word inside of Teams. Very cool. But I like using the full version of stuff. So the Microsoft 365 app Word, as long as I'm signed in as me, this is actually a file from my chat, in this case, originally. I can check out the version history. I can revert to a previous version. It's so cool. Opens it in a new window, and I can make that choice. So I have total control over how I want to view it, how I want to manage it, where I want to save it. Now, I will show you the settings area now, because that's where we can change that open experience. If you click on the top right, there's a settings area. And then on the left, we have all the the listing. So it's general. We're not going to go through all these settings. We don't have time, plus it's not that exciting. But where do you want things to open? Do you want new floating windows for things? I like that. I like having a new window instead of embedded, because I like to have multiple windows open at the same time. And that's great. For example, with Dan, my manager, I chat with him all the time. I have a window off to the side on a second monitor. It's kind of just there. It's helpful. I don't have to hunt around for it. So then you can schedule an out of office from here. You don't have to go to Outlook and do it there. You can do it in one place. You're in Teams. And I recommend maybe saying, I'm not available to, instead of get your email, say message or something, because it could be in a chat, a channel. It'll show up in Outlook and Teams. So pretty cool. I'm going to go to the files and links to go right to that file open preference. This is it. So you can open files that are Microsoft Office type files in Teams. And that's just as a window, like we saw OneDrive, the full desktop app, or the browser. So that's going to launch the online version of each of those. And then sometimes a lot of people get frustrated because when you open a link in Teams, we use a lot of links in Teams. Do you want your default browser to be Edge or Chrome or whatever you might have? Brave, Safari, there's so many. But Edge and Chrome work the best. I'm going to just point out one feature about transcription. You can turn it on to show live captions all the time. And a couple of the newer features within your devices are going to show up in meetings. This is also for when you use things like Stream in Teams. You want to make sure that you're using the correct mic, and even things like noise suppression are on to drown out the background noise if you have any. All right, I'm going to click on Planner. And again, please ask questions if you've got them. And thanks to those of you who are asking. Hopefully I've addressed some of those things. The Planner area. I love it. I literally do use this every day to keep track of things like webinars or consulting time, researching stuff, whatever it might be. The Planner experience in Teams, you'll see the icons different, a little bit different here. Get that out of there. This sometimes is a little different. You can't see everything. Just keep in mind that the way Teams is set up now, sometimes you have to make those panels or panes fly out by clicking that little icon. So it combined the green Planner icon. If you go to Planner Online, it's green. Here it's this color. And that's because it has To Do and Planner, and then actually changing to Project 2 in the same environment. So if I go to My Day, this is personal stuff. This could be some things I need to do, and it's in the private tasks area. Because you can have different plans for different teams you might be on, different projects. I can keep track of it all here. Recurring ones even. Get more coffee from my office. Check. There we go. You can assign pretty much any task you have to the My Day area, and then using it on the mobile app is awesome. And you can adjust your notifications. But this is the My Tasks area. This is where I can show all of them. Now, this is going to be everything from flagged emails. That's a new feature. I love it. We're bridging the gap between Teams and Outlook quite a bit when we have things like that. Anytime you flag an email, it's going to show up in My Tasks. And due dates, you can actually have attachments. So you can pull in, when you copy a link, you can paste it anywhere. And then we can have certain ones for different plans we have. So we might have a plan for that Mark 8 project tracking. Check it out. In my plans, this is tied to a SharePoint team. You can see that. That link is present. If you want to learn more, you can click, but that drop down shows it. We can look in all kinds of views. So if you think of other project management type apps, sometimes people like this view. You can go through and adjust all this stuff right here in Teams. And you can assign multiple people, which is something we couldn't do in Outlook. You can do the board view, Kanban style, calendar, schedule, and then the charts area is awesome because you can look at everything and see, maybe what's late at a quick look. And you could even copy this and show it on a channel tab. That way people don't have to click around as much. They're starting to use Teams more. You can even create personal plans. So using that planner app with this, again, really helpful, even if you're not a project manager, because you're still going to be managing projects. I manage my webinars, my time, and putting the personal and the group stuff together is helpful. So this is what that looks like. The share experience, again, is pretty much the same everywhere. You pick your people, internal mostly. Now, if you want to share external, you can do that as well, but the safest way to do that is, just a reminder, keeping, if I wanted to share this folder, if I choose share, I can click on the gear so we can see the settings. I could create an anyone link if I wanted to. This is OneDrive. If it's a SharePoint file, usually you can't do that, but if you do people, you choose. This is how you can send to people outside your organization, and you can always revoke that. So yes, you can manage your OneDrive files, you can manage your SharePoint files, you can color code your folders now by clicking on the 3 dots. There's folder color, that's a new feature. So click on the more options and poke around a little bit, see some of these browse by files and see if that can be helpful for you. One of the reasons I like this so much is sometimes I can't remember, did I put that in OneDrive yet, or in SharePoint yet, or is that still on OneDrive? By going to OneDrive and home, I can see everything in this area. It's really smart. It uses AI to remember files I've been working on. I like the thumbnails, and if I can't find it, I can just filter by person, or I could just type in Teams, and look, there it is, Teams. That's the presentation you saw, and then here's that loop component. I can click that. I'll make that bigger. And here's a loop component for the design team. It's a checklist of checklists that we should do. Isn't that fancy? But that's on my OneDrive. Now, a couple of things. We're just wrapping up shortly here, but a couple of things I think are important to know about collaboration and about your files. This, even though it reads OneDrive, this is where we're going to see files that are yours, shared files, as in with you, files that other people have shared with you. You can see that new column in the activity column, or files shared by you. So this is good to look at sometimes. Like, what am I sharing with people? Go to OneDrive, go to shared, and then by you. But again, we're still inside of Teams fully. I like being able to do that. You can add apps. Also, you can move these around because sometimes it's hard to find them. All right, if people have additional questions, let me know. I'm going to show, there's a question about the Outlook connection with Teams. So let's say I'm going to go to Outlook in the browser here to show you. So let's say I have, where are we here? I had an alert set on, so anytime, and you can do this too, anytime something was added, then it alerts me when I'm showing that off. But here's a message. All right, what we can do, if I flag that, that's going to show up in my tasks, in my to-do. Same thing as always. If you go over here and right-click, you can do this right from inside Outlook. Now the other thing, let's double-click that, is this experience is a little bit different. You can respond by creating a Teams meeting if you want to. You can also send back and forth from Teams to, I'm going to open this other one, from Outlook to Teams. Here we go. Let's go to the bottom here. Within Outlook, we have access to all the same OneDrive experience, loop, bookings, just all the other apps we have. So if you're using Outlook and you're using Teams, turn off the new one. So sorry, I want to show you this cool feature, but we're going to skip feedback. Hold on. Most of you are going to be seeing this. Sorry about that. It's the practice environment. It's always trying to be so helpful. I'm going to take this and say share to Teams. Check out this button in Outlook. By clicking on that, it allows me to take whatever that email is and then send that to maybe this group chat. You can type in a name or channel or whatever it might be, type a message, and if it has attachments, you can actually include them, and it's going to upload and then share. So I'm going to share this email in Outlook that I got to people in Teams. And that just came in. I'm going to go to the chat area. And you can do this in channels too, of course. There we go. Check it out. That's the email. I actually took that as an email file, put it in here, and included everything. So I just kind of bridged that in between part. I love it. You can do that with chats. You can do that with channels. And by clicking on the three dots here, we can get email addresses to the channel. So if you want to integrate Outlook that way, if people prefer emailing, even external, you can get email addresses and adjust who can email that channel, because then it's going to post that email. So again, that's another way that you can kind of go back and forth. So anyone can send them, only members of the team, or only these certain whitelisted domains. You can do that if you're working with another organization. So we're leaving a little time now for some questions, which there's a good one. If we store our company documents within folders on our local server and not OneDrive or SharePoint, can I walk you through how to share files in the new Teams? So if you're migrating maybe from having maybe a folder of important documents, policies or something on a shared network drive, just so I'm not misspeaking here, if you're migrating a bunch of files, you might want to just check with your IT team just to make sure, because of metadata and stuff. But let's just say you have a few files that you want to put there. Anytime you share a file in a chat, it's going to go to your OneDrive. And in your OneDrive, there's a subfolder called Microsoft Teams chat files. Any file you ever share in a Teams chat or somebody shares with you is on your OneDrive in a subfolder called Microsoft Teams chat files. There it is. But if you want to share something, I'm going to go to the SharePoint part of the Mark 8 project team here. If I do that, here are each of those channels that we just saw. But these are the site library files. So if you copy anything into this area, let me show you an example. I'm going to just copy this Excel doc or CSV. I drag that, it uploaded it right here, and now it's on SharePoint. So from inside Teams, if I want to drag anything to the design channel or subfolder, all I have to do is drag it and drop it in, or click on the upload button. But dragging and dropping is pretty easy. And now this is on SharePoint. And I know that because if I choose open in SharePoint, it's going to launch the Mark 8 project team Teams connected SharePoint site. That's the big part. If you have a team site, you can connect it to a team. You wouldn't want to have redundancy. So if you're migrating files and you have a SharePoint site, like a destination, sure, you can upload files and folders this way, dragging and dropping or choosing upload. Right there. So there's ordered data, for example. Now it's on SharePoint. I think that's what you mean. So if you want to share them from here, let's say it's a whole folder. I just uploaded a folder I had on an old network drive to the Mark 8 project team SharePoint site in this document library, and I want to share that whole folder with people. Well, there's a share button. And then from here, we can see who it's already shared with, 19 people in 5 groups. So just make sure they don't maybe already have access. This allows me to see who has access. So if you're thinking, well, I don't want visitors, those are external people, to have access, you can change that to say, well, they can view it, but they just can't download it. See how fine-tuned you can get? That's awesome. So if you share something, you can kind of see how safely it is that it is shared by going and seeing individuals and their unique permissions. It does give more info if you need, but managing this access area can sometimes help. You don't have to like re-upload stuff to a different SharePoint site. You could, right from this environment, share with a whole group. Like I could share with the whole design team or all the new employee onboarding people or something like that.
So John, I do want to jump in real quick here and just clarify that question. I think what they're saying is, they're not using OneDrive or SharePoint at all. And so they're asking if they can share files from their server over Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, so if you upload a file in a post like that, so I'm going to upload these new staff steps Excel document I had on my desktop, or I had on that network drive. If I upload this just as is and post it, this now lives, you can see the link. It lives on the SharePoint project site in a document library in a subfolder called design. And now that lives there. So you could have multiple copies. So yeah, if you're continuing to use the older one, my recommendation is to literally post a link in. I mean, right, Mike? Wouldn't that be probably your best practice? Is to post a link to that directory and take it from there. Unless you make them read only or something. If I wanted to change this and say, well, I don't want people to have so many copies of this, I don't want them to mess with this one, you can copy a link and change your settings so that people can view it only, or maybe you don't want them to download it. That might be a thing to do too, because you can ramp these settings up pretty high. So you can say, well, anybody at work can see it, but they can't download it. But then so this one will never be changed, but it's going to retain. But there's no connection really unless you have a hyperlink. Hopefully that's helpful. I know that it's hard to try to do that, but just keep in mind, anytime you share something in a chat, it's going to go to OneDrive, even if you drag and drop or upload it. And then unless it's a link pointing you somewhere else. And if you share it in a post, that's going to be stored in a SharePoint subfolder with the name of the team. I know it's a lot. But if you have any questions for clarification, we can stick around, or certainly feel free to type in the question panel. But Mike, was there anything that you wanted to mention? And now that I've told everybody so much stuff, hopefully this was helpful. From all of you. Absolutely. But we are going to stick around. We wanted to go 45 minutes to an hour on this, but I respect your time. I know sometimes you're rushing off to another meeting, but I really encourage you to go in. If you use OneNote all the time, that's one of the other apps that integrates really well with Teams. Add them. Right click on these apps. There are a lot of features you might not have realized, like pinning it, moving it around because where your mouse goes. It's just little things like that. But some of these you can right click and you can pop out that app to create a new chat. I think we can do, this is an area I love using, the chat with yourself area, just to send photos or record a video clip of yourself, like a video notes area. Nobody sees this but you and your files there. So right clicking, and this is my favorite feature for my project management type stuff, is to have Planner open with my day. So I've got all my stuff. I can have that on another screen and then continue to work in Teams. But remember, sometimes in Teams it's frustrating. I wasn't wanting to use Teams because I found myself always having to go use this little back arrow, and then I'd lose whatever I had up, and that was frustrating. So having those pop out is super helpful. You're welcome. Oh, there's the search experience is probably the other big new feature. Another thing I just encourage you to try on your own to interact with the new features. Clicking, and you can search for everything from people to messages, files. If I just type in like project, for example, pay attention to these tabs on the top, because you can search and refine the scope of what your query is. Project, for example, across people, messages, chats. and you can type to filter. So it used to be harder to find stuff. I'd say they really did a lot with it. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to kind of wrap up, and if anybody has additional stuff, let us know. But thanks so much, and thank you, Mike and Brad and everyone, for allowing me to share my excitement for these cool new ways to work with teams. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, John, for taking us through that. A lot of good stuff there. Just a couple of quick announcements while we do have everybody still. Be on the lookout. We're going to be sending out an email with an invitation to our next webinar. It's going to be over Copilot, which is Microsoft's version of AI. So when you get that email, make sure you sign up right away. That's going to be a really good one to go over. There's been a lot of interest in something like that lately. So also, if you're interested in checking out our other webinars, you can go to our resources tab on our website. They're freely available to anybody. So if you know somebody that has questions about Teams, Planner, anything that we've done in the past, feel free to send them to our website. And that's about it. On behalf of Virtual IT and Knowledge Wave, I want to thank everybody for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everyone. See you next time. Bye.